Okay, so dear viewers, you must have missed some of the beginning that we were discussing. So today, just to recap a little bit what I was talking about, today we are on those chapters of the book that talks about physical productivity and what do we have to say to that according to the Quran and Sunnah. These are some of the topics that we rarely talk about. But today, inshallah, this part of the book, we will be talking about sleep. Next week, we will talk about nutrition.
We might not have had voice from the beginning.
We might not have, yes, this is what I'm recapping for the audience a little bit. And then, we will also talk about fitness. Just a disclaimer, none of us are sleep experts or nutritionists or either, any kind of a fitness trainer or anything like that. We are talking about this topic from a very religious and a social perspective. So, and we are commenting from the book, and we are discussing this as we might understand it. So first of all, he talks about the spiritual significance of sleep, and he mentions that there are 3 verses in the Quran where sleep is mentioned. One of them is Ayatul Kursi, and then and then he says one of the first qualities that Allah describes himself as having is that neither slumber nor sleep overtakes him. And then there is another verse in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Did we not create you in pairs, give you sleep for rest, the night as a cover?" So he is mentioning that Quran also mentioned this aspect of a human life. Afrin, what caught your attention in this chapter? It's mashallah beautiful chapter.
Really, just going through this Ayatul Kursi and everywhere where Allah has mentioned sleep and how. And then there's somewhere he also mentions about how the science has never proved or never understood why we sleep.
Yes.
That was something very new to me. I thought maybe
research on that, there's a sleep cycle, you go in deep sleep and things like that.
Yeah, but then when they said that science has never proved or we don't know the reason why a person sleeps.
Yeah, we know how.
We know how. We get tired, we sleep and everything.
And the sleep cycles and all of that, but we don't know why.
We don't know the depth of what is that sleep doing.
Yes.
And also it's really surprising to see that even during sleep the activity is really high.
Exactly.
Of a person. We think that when we are awake and doing various things, that's when we are actually working. But during sleep, when they studied the sleep cycle, they saw that our body is actually working a lot.
And this is why, dear viewers, many times all the ideas, how we say the phrase sleep on it. There's an idea and we're not able to think about it, what's going on. Sleep on it. Body's working.
Yes.
It's taking
even during memorization of the Quran. In the night you keep trying. With the kids I saw, like, you keep trying, they memorize, they're not getting it. They're not able to get it. They just sleep and they wake up and they're able to say it fluently.
Wow.
I have seen this.
See, the body is working.
This is the last thing that you think or sleep. That's why you have to sleep with happy thoughts.
Yes.
Then you wake up with that, because all night you're in those happy thoughts.
Yes, and your body is working in a positive manner. So he says, what should we deduce from this? From what the Quran has to say, and Quran mentions the sleep. He says, we deduce from the above that sleep is not just an activity, but a sign of Allah's power. So dear viewers, I think this is a very good frame of mind. That first of all, when we look at sleep, and we discuss about sleep to discuss our activity and our energy levels, first of all, look at that. Sleep is a sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I think many of us have never thought about sleep in that manner, that sleep is a sign of Allah. And he says, it is interesting to note that with all the scientific advances in our modern era, no one really knows why we sleep. And then he gives an example of Dr. Andrew Male, the father of integrative medicine. He writes in a 2015 Times Magazine article on the power of sleep that the brain is quite busy during sleep.
Wow.
And that is unbelievable. And then he says, for Muslims, sleep is also a reminder of death. You know what? I think for me, Afrin, this was a thing that would motivate me to be more productive during the day.
True.
Because, we know that death is about to come. Any one of us can die any minute. right? But we think it is in distant future.
Yeah.
It's not happening now. I still have time. And when I think like that, I sometimes waste time. But when you see that death is so much is closer, we sleep every day and we wake up every day.
Right.
This is the cycle that we go through. Then you realize that, for example, when I'm sleeping, I'm not able to do many things while I'm awake. So this means that while I'm alive, I have this chance of doing so much, and this may motivate me not to waste time, right? So, and this is why I was listening to Steve Jobs, and he was saying that he was so productive. Why? Because he would look into the mirror, and he would tell himself, "What if this is the last day of your life?"
Yeah.
Right? And then we sleep, and we realize that while we're sleeping, we're completely unaware.
And that's what we're supposed to ask ourselves every day as
Exactly.
Muslims, right? Because really, Allah keeps mentioning, remember death again and again. We have to remember and see that what have we done today? What if this is the last day of? That's how we have to live.
Yes.
And I was surprised to see Steve Jobs do that. Like
Exactly. But Islam is a deen of fitrah.
Right.
Any intelligent thought, any thought that comes from real thinking, is very much aligned with Islam.
Right.
So this is very, my dear sisters and brothers as well who are watching our book club, just imagine that this cycle of sleep and being awake should motivate us to be more productive in our lives, right?
Yeah. Another thing that really caught my eye and a lesson learned from this was how Dr. Faris connected sleep with ibadah. He said sleep is just not an act of this world. He said it is the spiritual, and it is for the hereafter. So don't sleep for this world. He said sleep for the hereafter.
Just imagine this.
That was something you don't think like that. You just, oh my God, I'm so tired, I need to go get some rest.
Yeah.
We just think of it as a rest for this world so we can get up and start doing something again in the morning. But he said no, that's why when Allah says sleep less, wake up, do ibadah in the night, then the question that comes to your mind is, then how can I sleep less and be functional? I'll be tired. But then he said it's the intention that you make.
Exactly.
The intention that you make, and you say that, okay, I'm sleeping not for this world, not to get rest or do work in this world. I'm sleeping for the hereafter. That's when he said that intention will take you far.
Or you can think that, I want to sleep so I can wake up a little bit refreshed, so I can do more.
Yeah.
And this is where the power naps come in. That I'm not going to sleep for fun. I want to sleep, and I don't want to wake up with any alarm. Some people think this is a lot of fun, of course, when they're tired. But if we sleep for this thing, that I'm going to sleep so I can be more refreshed to do my ibadah. Or for example, the Prophet ﷺ did tell us to take a power nap in the middle of the day, so we are more refreshed for the night prayer, the tahajjud prayer.
Right.
So this is the kind of productivity we are talking about.
Yeah. He says we are asking you the question: are you sleeping for this world or for the hereafter?
Yes. Are you sleeping to be more productive, so you can take a power nap and wake up and be more productive, or you're just sleeping for
just relaxation?
Yeah.
Right. So if for this world, then sleep, and don't bother about waking up for tahajjud or even fajr prayer or anything. If you're sleeping for the hereafter, then you'll need to sacrifice some of your sleep for the greater pleasure that comes to you.
Yeah.
So, mashallah.
And then he says, here comes a common dilemma to the Muslim mind. We all know about the importance of night prayer and overcoming our sleep in order to reach the highest level of spirituality and closeness to God. However, how do we balance that with the practicalities of the day-to-day life, of the day-to-day living, where we have work, school, families, and more importantly, our own bodies that require at least 7 hours of sleep each night? This is a common thing that people might ask. That of course, but what about my 7 hours of sleep, and I cannot function without that?
Yeah.
He says the dilemma bothered me for a long time. On one hand, I understood the spiritual significance of overcoming sleep to worship Allah. Not only does it allow commitment, but it also shows sincerity. And then he says, after a lot of thought, I have come to the following conclusion. it depends on the intention of sleep, which Afrin was talking about. The intention of sleep. So maybe if you're reading the book with us, highlight this point in the book: intention of sleep.
Absolutely.
Why are you sleeping? And after many things, many practices in the Islam tells us, make wudu before going to sleep.
Yes.
They
get into that next after the actions before sleeping.
The actions before sleep. So it's really these practices are there to make us more productive. And after over here, I was thinking, this is one of the dilemmas that he's talking about. But I think our real dilemma is that we have put religion and our life into two separate
vessels. Yes.
That this is dunya and this is deen.
Yes.
And this is I think the problem.
Yeah.
That we have never understood our deen as a way of life.
Way of life, absolutely.
That the practices that are in our deen are there to make us productive people, not only for the akhirah but also for this dunya. Because our thing is dunya for akhirah.
Yeah.
But not dunya and akhirah. I think this and has a problem. Has a problem. Yes.
Yeah, the life has to be with, and Islam did not come for some extracurricular activity.
Yeah, Islam is built in your everyday life.
Every day, it's a way of life.
Yes, you don't have to step aside and do something separate for your deen. Islam is built in our everyday life, and that's the beauty of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Aminah, some spiritual solutions to sleep.
Yep.
From a spiritual point of view, a Muslim should approach sleep as a ritual that they perform each night, just like salah or any other act of worship. This means that you need to think of your intention for sleep, perform certain actions prior to sleep, and perform certain actions after waking up.
Yes, and this is we see from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. There are actions and adhkar he told us to do before going to sleep, and there are actions in very much detail he tells us that to do after we wake up from sleep. So this makes us like a practice that is very much ingrained in our deen.
Right. So these are very good practical tips that everybody should read and follow. Amna, this is
so we'll just mention them here. He says actions before sleep, performing wudu before sleeping or ablution, wudu or ablution, praying the night prayer with a prayer before sleep. This is another thing. So don't get into the fiqh debate over there. There is a fiqh thing that maybe you can sleep and then wake up and pray witr or with your for tahajjud prayer. So all of this is there, but don't get into that. He's just like I told you, this is just a very practical thing that he's telling us over here.
He mentioned that Prophet ﷺ prayed all night, any time of the night. There are so many hadiths where it's something that whenever you can, just pray at night.
Pray at night, yes. And then it says du'as before sleeping. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ taught us specific supplications to make before sleeping, which remind us that sleep is a sister of death. And I think that's a very important reminder. If every night we sleep with this mindset that I am just about to meet a sister of death, which is very close to death, maybe it will make us think also, if I wake up inshallah with the mercy of Allah, I will make sure my next day is more productive. I think, what do you guys think, dear viewers, that if we sleep with this mindset that sleep is a sister of death, and the du'as of the Prophet ﷺ is reminding us that, don't you think we will think more and we will say that I want my next day to be more productive than today?
Right. Then there are actions. So there are 3 actions before you sleep: wudu, then du'as,
praying,
and tahajjud prayer.
Yes.
3 things, inshallah. Then actions after sleep, when you wake up, again du'as after sleep. Then he's asking us to recite last 10 verses of Surah Al-Imran and make wudu. Yes. So these 10, and mainly this because in the last 10 verses of Surah Al-Imran, he says that the most important thing that you learn is, you who believe, be steadfast, more steadfast than others, be ready, always be mindful of God, so that you may prosper. Yes.
So, and then, he talks about the du'as after sleep, recite the last 10 verses of Surah Al-Imran, and then make wudu again. And just imagine this, it says, as we approach sleep as a form of worship, we should also bear in mind how, just as with salah, there are certain rituals we do. And just imagine, dear viewers, if we start looking at sleep in this manner, I do think that we will not sleep late. We will not sleep or oversleep. And I think when we start looking at sleep in this manner, it will be much different and it will be more productive, and we will not waste time sleeping more than we should sleep.
Yeah. These some practical tips are very important also, Amna, other than the spiritual ones like praying and all. Then on the next page, he gives physical solutions to sleep.
Yeah.
He says, burn off your energy during the day by exercising.
Yeah.
He shows the importance of exercising. Then he says, do not eat within 3 hours of sleep.
Yeah, that is something that, in today's life, in the pace of the modern day life, is that many people eat late.
Yeah. It's also our culture also, Amna.
Yeah.
We've been always, dinner time is like late. 9 o'clock.
Yeah,
like
9:30, and and just look at, I think a sleep expert might elaborate more on this, but the book does go into some of the things that it might cause. But dear viewers, also to remember that I wanted to mention over here something that Imam Ghazali said. So there's a whole thing that Imam Ghazali talks about sleep, and he then also talks about the negative sleep and a positive sleep. One of his books that he mentioned that when you sleep late, it's a negative sleep. But because the amount that when you sleep early, how it is like early to bed and early to rise. So when you sleep early, you're more restful. Even you are sleeping the same hours. And when you are sleeping late, you are not that restful. Even the hours of sleeping early and hours after sleeping late are the same. And that's something to also think about. That it's the sleeping late and then waking up late and half of the day is gone. That's the thing. But over here, I would also like to mention one of my friends. I talked to her about how teenagers often, especially in summers and on weekend, they're sleeping late, and we're like, oh my God, what are you guys doing? But in that age, that's a different story. Because their body is going through something, and that's another thing.
Amna, they just stay up. I think they stay up at night, and they're always tired. They don't tell us. Then basically the third point he says is avoid caffeine in the evenings. Then he says avoid device screens before sleep.
I think this is something that we really need to focus on. The phone is right next to us on the nightstand.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And people just before sleeping are looking at it.
We're all guilty of this.
And then what happens, that this restfulness and this working of the brain is affected. Yeah, because we were looking at screens so much, it is affected over there. So I will read a little bit.
Melatonin is the key chemical in your brain that helps you sleep, and when you're watching the screen, then that production stops.
Oh my goodness.
The melatonin doesn't come, so you don't. Melatonin tells your body that it is night, helping to make you sleep. If you delay that signal, you could delay sleep. You might think that you're being productive, checking last-minute emails late at night, but if anything, you are harming yourself and affecting your sleep.
Oh my goodness.
Simply turn off your phones or put them on silent at least 60 to 90 minutes before you intend to sleep.
Oh my goodness.
It will make a significant difference.
And then I think he also mentioned a very good point. Do light reading before sleeping. Yes. I think this is very helpful.
Very helpful.
Because, you sleep with good thoughts. You're reading something good, productive, even if it's a quote, even it's a poetry, or, any advices or reflections or daily wisdom, whatever you like.
He also mentions do not read on the iPad.
I agree to that. You know what? Yes, we have a Kindle. I have a Kindle, and I read on the Kindle very much. I read on the computer, but you read on the book. That's a different feeling. That's when you're holding a book like this in your hand and you're reading from it. I don't know. It gives you the sense of attachment.
Right. Exactly.
Which you cannot have with the iPad.
For me, I can't even focus. I don't know. I mean, I know you read a lot on the iPad. For me, I want to read in a book.
Yes.
Then journaling. He's suggesting journaling. He's saying write happy thoughts, or even how you're thankful for the blessings. Just make a journal of your blessings and what all your
reflections on your day. Yeah, and I think it's a good idea. Instead of and I think this will make us more productive. And in Islam we also have this concept of ihtisab. Like a personal accountability that we should do every night before the next day, so our next day can be more productive. There's one of the hadith of Rasulullah, the essence of the hadith is, a person's day, every day should be better than the last one. And this is a tool to do that. So journaling is another thing, maybe keeping a small notebook on your side, and maybe, jotting down few things on it, and I think that will help.
Right. The last point that he says is try to see the daylight. So this came as a surprise to me, Amna. I didn't know this. They said even the office workers in the office, when the people who have exposure to a window or something daylight, they have been getting better night's sleep than the people who don't have it in the room. So this, I did not know this.
Because because your body clock. Like for example, when you travel, like when we go overseas, and the hours are so different. The quickest way to set your body is to expose yourself into the sunlight, because your body clock is getting adjusted, because you're in the plane for a long time. The body does not know when it is light, when it is dark, and when you go there, it's night over here, it's day over there. The best thing is, and I have tried that, what we call jet lag, is to sit in the light, sit in the sun, so your body can be adjusted to
the daytime.
That. Yes,
mashallah.
Yeah,
amazing. So the next thing is, the question that comes to mind is, how many hours of sleep should I get each night? And to answer this question, we have to understand the sleep cycle.
Yeah.
So that's a very nice diagram.
Yeah, this is a very nice diagram in the book, and if you guys have the book, you can follow through. And you can. He summarizes it in a good way, and you can read through that. It's a good thing.
I actually started following this.
You did?
I did. After reading this, I actually started following the 5 stages of
10:30 to 11:30, 11:30 to 1, and all of that.
So basically, Amna, this was very informational. Like really, if you think about it, I never studied sleep, but I learned from this. Of course, he says that he's not a sleep expert, but I think it works.
There's so many studies on it. Yeah.
1.5 hour of sleep is one sleep cycle, and you go through all the stages in 1.5 hour. That was very nice. From the light sleep to the deepest sleep, and then to the awaking stage, which is the most activity when you're waking up. The last stage is when you get the dreams and everything. So it all happens in 90-minute cycles.
Imagine, and this is why it is a sign of Allah.
Right, and then if you get 3 cycles, 4 cycles, if you wake up completing that 1.5 hour, then you wake up really, really fresh.
Wow.
And if you wake up in that deep sleep time in the middle, then you might wake up groggy and tired.
Wow.
So this was like, now I look at the time, I time myself, my 1.5 is not over.
So then, I think this is very good. The power of power naps. I really like this topic over here. And then he says there are many hadith that indicates how Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and his companions used to nap in the afternoon, either before Dhuhr prayer or after. It is unclear whether this was a daily practice. However, modern science has proven that napping is an essential practice for a healthier, smarter, and more productive lifestyle. A study at NASA on sleepy military pilots and astronauts found that a 40-minute nap improved performance by 34% and alertness by 100%.
Wow.
Imagine that. Just a 40-minute nap, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Because it completes your cycle. No, you go into the deep part and get all the rest.
Yeah. And then he says, unfortunately, there are anti-napping culture in today's corporate world. Those who nap at work are seen as lazy. And you know what? I was often listening to one of the studies on radio. There was a program, and they were saying, we tell the kids to come to school 8 in the morning, and we keep them up until 3 or 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock, yeah.
And it says, if we introduce napping in the middle, or that would really increase their,
so productive.
Or if we can let them go early,
yeah.
Why do we need them for such a long time? and then we let them go early, and then they can nap and have the rest of the day as being productive.
Yes, absolutely.
And and I think this was the practice before.
Yeah.
People would come back to school like at 1 o'clock, nap a little bit, and then they would be more productive in the evening.
They do it here also, but just until kindergarten.
Yeah, I know.
Kindergartners, I love their cots. The way they all take out their cots and sleep. But Aminah, why? In fact, this Dr. Harris introduces, and he says even for working people, for offices, he says just put a sign of shh on your nap in progress and just sleep. I mean,
just sleep, because
20-minute nap.
Yes, 20 minutes nap.
Yeah.
I think, but he's saying the right thing, that the corporate culture these days is like an anti-napping culture.
This is an alien concept.
Yes.
They do not believe in that. We do not do this. I have not seen it anywhere.
I think, but if they do introduce that, I would think that many things will improve.
Yeah.
The productivity
People
of the
might be
company.
more productive, exactly.
Yes, they will improve. Yes. And he says companies like Apple, Sony, and Google are already aware of the importance of napping and encourage their staff to nap during the day. I challenge our corporate world today, especially in the Muslim world, to encourage their staff to follow the Sunnah and take naps during the day. As I say during my seminars, if companies allow their staff to go for a 15 to 20 minutes smoking break, knowing that smoking is detrimental for health, then why don't we allow people to nap for 15 to 20? This is a very good point.
Very good question, really.
This is a very good point. I think that this should be introduced to people. This should be introduced in schools. It should be introduced in the corporate as well, because it will improve the productivity of the people.
Yeah. In fact, Amna, if I feel like in today's world, if you do this, people might start thinking you're so lazy.
He's saying that over there.
Yeah, why are you doing, like, look at him, why is he trying to sleep?
Yes, or he's sleeping at work.
Yeah, sleeping at work.
Yeah, true.
This is
true.
almost like a taboo, like if you do it.
Yes, and this is the concern you commonly hear from managers and CEOs, is that napping can be used as an excuse to laze around asleep for hours in the afternoon. This is not a reason to not allow napping. It is a reminder that we all need to learn about how to nap productively. And then, he says how to nap. There's a cat nap, there's an action nap, and there's a long nap. Afin, what do you think about this? Cat nap, action nap, long nap?
Love all those naps. 20 minutes, 45 minutes, and the best one is the longest one.
90 minutes 90 nap, minutes. Long nap.
That is a whole cycle, Amna.
Yeah.
45 minutes, you complete the first three phases, and you don't go into the deep sleep, which is almost like death. Like literally, they compare that to that. Like you're unconscious.
Unconscious, yes.
So you don't enter that, but you still are rested completely, and then you wake up and you don't get into that unconscious state. So I like the action nap.
Action nap.
Yeah. I mean cat nap or action nap. But I think we can save the long nap for really the days that you're really tired and you really need, at night time. I think this is good.
And I think, Afrin, you know what? If we are going through the day not napping, thinking we will nap, we'll just go to sleep at night, your productivity is much less. You're just dragging yourself through the day, but your productivity is not there. Right? Yeah.
I mean, I actually started doing this. I actually did, and I feel so good. Like, because with COVID and everything, kids were home. There was we would not have to take the kids to school and all that.
Exactly.
Now, so what I used to do normally was, after Fajr, I would wake up a little before Fajr, pray Fajr, and then I would sleep. I would sleep and wake up like around 9 or 8:30 or something like that. I would get good 2 hours, whatever, in the morning. But now I don't get that. After Fajr is getting the kids ready for school and take them to school and all that. So I don't get any time to nap at all. So now I time myself 1.5 hours. I keep an alarm for 1.5 hours.
And when do you sleep?
After dropping them and coming back, and then I go to work. But until then, I'm getting that. I feel so refreshed.
Exactly.
Really, I feel so good.
Yeah.
So
this is and I think, I don't know if we are not mental health experts, but I think if we invite one and talk to them about that, how can this napping maybe help these issues as well? Maybe it will help. Maybe that there's some connection over there, that this kind of a routine in a day might help people also with many other things that might be might be aggravating their situations, because mental health is a thing but there can be things in our day that might help ease off, those things that people suffer from. Okay. Then, I think the next topic he discusses about sleep is that social solutions for sleep. Very, very interesting topic. He says sleep can also be affected due to social factors such as anger with family members, jealousy with colleagues, and anxiety with neighbors, to name but a few.
Yep.
I was very, very happy that he mentioned that.
Yes, absolutely.
That this lack of sleep, insomnia, is also caused by these kinds of things.
Now, what's important to think about here is, when you are angry with others, or you're jealous, or you're trying to hurt others, you're like planning conspiracies against others and all, you think you're trying to hurt other people, but you're actually hurting yourself.
Because this will make you lose your productivity.
Yes, absolutely. All productivity, sleep, you're tired, you will not be able to do your work. So it's better and the best to forgive. And move on.
And then he says that the social solutions to sleep, therefore, is to sleep with a clean heart. And this reminds us of that famous hadith of the Prophet. A man comes to him, and Prophet says, "This is a man of Jannah." This is how when I read these things, Afreen, the simplicity of Islam, it's like beautiful.
Subhanallah. You should read that hadith, Aminah. This is such a good hadith.
Yeah, this is a story that, the power of a clean heart in the following. Prophet ﷺ was sitting with a group of his companions. A man comes, and the Prophet ﷺ said, "This is a man of Jannah." So one of the Sahabi, he wants to know why Prophet ﷺ called him that. So now he makes an excuse, stays with him for 3 days and 3 nights. And then he notices that this person does not do any special ibadah. He was thinking that maybe he wakes up the entire night, he's fasting the whole day, but no. And then at the end of the 3 days, he tells him that I was here because of this reason, but I really wanted to see what makes you so special. And he says, I forgive everyone before I go to sleep.
Subhanallah.
So what does this tell us about sleep?
Such an achievement to be like that.
And this, how much sleep is a form of, is a part of Islamic practices. That, you forgive people before sleeping. Imagine that. And now we see these kinds of a thing when people are anxious, anxiety because of their social relationships, they're not able to sleep. We all lose sleep over these things, right?
Yeah.
So that then this hadith is there.
Again, that he gives some practical tips on the next page, similar ones. Forgive those who wronged you.
Yes.
Then resolving conflicts, emotional issues.
Yes.
Then do not sleep while angry.
Yes.
If you have an argument with your spouse or your children or anything, try to resolve it before sleeping.
Yes.
Do not sleep without resolving it.
That's a very important thing. Maybe this is one of the practices that it's not easy. First of all, let me say that. If you're angry, you're being wronged, somebody is hurting you, forgiving that person is not easy. Yes, this is true, and this is the question that we get a lot. When we are teaching other classes, people say, but this is not easy. Of course it's not easy. But my dear viewers, what do you think? Harboring that is easy? When you're constantly losing sleep over it, when you're constantly losing your productivity over it, when you're constantly losing your life over it, is that easy?
No.
We should ask ourselves this question: what is easy? To constantly constantly harbor it, to keep losing sleep over it, to stay miserable all the time, or is it easier to forgive and move on? Yeah.
Amna, this is a very common practice actually, like that I've seen people do. I don't know how right it is, wrong it is, but when you get into an argument or fight or something, they don't want to solve it or try to come with an open mind and solve it, but they say, okay, let's forget about it, let's talk about it in the morning.
Yeah.
And I know that to a certain extent it's better because it gives you that thinking time or whatever, but I'm a really firm believer in trying to solve it right then and there.
Exactly, especially before sleeping. So if it's happening during the day and you say, okay, we can discuss it in the evening or in the afternoon, but before sleeping at night, I think why? Because then you're not going to spend the entire next day with that.
Yes.
Because if you say, okay, just leave it, we'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it in the morning. Let's not talk about it now.
And then, the whole next day is also.
Yeah.
right?
I'm like, no, let's solve it now.
Yeah.
Let's patch up.
Let's
I don't want to sleep not patching up.
Often this gives us an indication which people. Yeah. No, but it really is, because then you are going to wake up the next morning already tired, because that was on your mind, and then you restart it.
Yeah, and don't forget that all night your brain is thinking about that.
And then the whole next day is spoiled.
Yeah, so if you were arguing while you slept, then you're arguing all night.
Yeah.
It's better to finish it and sleep with a calm, peaceful mind.
Exactly. Now he also says that, so this, and he mentioned this, as he said, a study by UMass Amherst neuroscientists conducted that if you have a negative emotional response, the response is reduced if you stay awake afterwards compared to if you sleep immediately. What is that supposed to mean? This is a very good thing. I'm going to say it again. He says, if you have a negative emotional response, the response is reduced if you stay awake afterwards compared to if you sleep immediately. This means that when you immediately sleep after a negative emotional response, you're more likely to have the same negative reaction to the problem in the morning.
Wow.
See?
We'd never thought about this, and
See? Again.
I didn't even know, and I believed in it.
So he says that, if you have if you stay awake afterwards compared to it, you sleep immediately. See, this is also important, that it's there. Just don't say, okay, we'll sleep and then we will discuss it the next day. That person who is suggesting that is harming him or herself.
Yeah.
Because the next day is going to be more stronger.
Yep. True.
Right?
True. I think it is good to give it some time, and so that you collect your thoughts, you think about the positives, you forgive, because it's known, right, Amna, that when you're angry, when you're emotional, you should not indulge in that discussion even more. Give yourself some space, go make wudu, and calm down, and then come back and try to talk.
But often also you see that sometimes when you're not in the right emotional state, and then you're giving it time, you're not going to recollect in a very positive manner. So I think if you solve it, then after that, when you're calm, then you will recollect it in a better way. But maybe this situation should not have been dealt in this way or that way.
Right.
And then I think that's the better way. That if you deal it over there, and then after you're calm, you sleep, you wake up, you feel fresh, then maybe you can have a better thinking, okay, maybe it should not have been done like that, or maybe. But if you are sleeping with that response, then maybe I don't think so that you will have a very positive things to say about that. Then he says, sleeping well solves half the problem of being productive. The other half is actually waking up on time every single day. I think this was a very good point in the book as well. That, sleeping and all of this that we just discussed solves half of the problem of you and I being productive. The other half is actually waking up on time every single day.
Right.
Now, this is another thing to think about. He says, one of the challenges that a Muslim faces when trying to manage his wake-up time to consistently wake up for Fajr prayers, as it is constantly shifting depending on the season you're in, it constantly shifts either a few minutes forward each day or a few minutes back each day. Thus, it can be difficult to keep up with a varied Fajr schedule throughout the year. Okay? So then he says the varied schedule poses two challenges for productive Muslim, and then he says, so how to overcome this challenge? The solution is in a new routine I have developed recently. Afin, would you say something about this routine?
No, Amna, it's very practical and very informational. Get the three-step process.
Yep.
Get the right alarm, develop your alarm habit, then tweak and rearrange.
Yeah. So he's saying that, waking up on time is also important, and then he says, training my brain to wake up at the same time each day and staying consistent with night prayer. So of many of us who think that maybe night prayer may take away from our sleep, but actually waking up on the same time, because the tahajjud, we can wake up the same time throughout the year.
Absolutely.
Throughout the year, we can wake up the same time. If we have the right time, we can wake up the same time, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe the Fajr time will shift a little bit, but the Tahajjud time you can decide.
Right.
What time do you want to pray Tahajjud? Mostly, you know, it's a very, the time is pretty flexible, and we can choose a consistent time over there.
Right.
And then if we do that, then we can, and you know, many people have said that, you know, when they wake up for Tahajjud and Fajr, and then they take a small nap afterwards, then they are more refreshed and more energetic throughout the day.
So this diagram is really helpful, Amna. It summarizes the whole chapter on sleep that we've read.
Yeah.
Mashallah, it's amazing. If we can make a copy of this and put it on our bed, or near our beds, on our fridge or something, this can be really beneficial for us.
Yeah.
Like the way the sleep management, how spiritual, physical and social solutions to the sleep management that he gives. It just summarizes everything,
the
like
whole
with
thing,
with the spiritual, your intentions, your salah, your wudu. Those are the three most important things. Then physical, of course, exercise and like work hard during the day so you get good night's sleep. And social solutions is patch up and
don't go to bed angry.
Don't go to bed angry. Do not sleep when you have things not in place.
Yes.
Solve any conflict that you have, and then go to sleep. It's better for you.
Yes.
It's not about others or anything. It's for yourself, that you're doing yourself a favor.
Exactly.
Right? MashaAllah.
And I think he does a good job that at the end of every topic, he gives us a diagram, a flow diagram, where you can follow and understand, and maybe keep a picture of that in your brain, and you know, help with that. So dear viewers, I hope and I pray that this was beneficial. I hope and I pray that you're reading the book and you're benefiting from it. And inshallah, next week we will be talking about nutrition. And that's another topic that we should talk about. It's going to be an interesting topic, and we would, tell all of you to read the book with us and be engaged. And inshallah, we will see you all next week. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. As-salatu was-salam ala rasulihil kareem. وعلى وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. جزاكم الله خيرا كثيرا, and we will see you all next week. السلام عليكم.
Assalamu alaikum.
قد أفلح المؤمنون الذين هم في صلاتهم خاشعون والذين هم عن اللغو معرضون والذين هم للزكاة فاعلون والذين هم لفروجهم حافظون إلا على أزواجهم أو ما ملكت أيمانهم فإنهم غير ملومين.